Hello, everyone, and welcome to Armstrong in the Loop podcast. I'm your host, Seth Prentice, and today I'm joined by Mark Sotomayor, Executive Officer of Treecup Tea. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Seth. It's a pleasure to be on.
Well, Mark, we're excited to have you here today to talk about Treecup Tea, but I think the listeners would love to hear a little bit about you first. Your website shares some of your background and tells a great story. So, can you please tell us more about yourself, your family, and that'll get us into your business?
Yes, my family immigrated from Peru in 1994. I'm very grateful they did because I wouldn't have had any of the opportunities I currently have had I been growing up in Peru. I was born in Providence, Rhode Island, and during the first 9 years of my life, we moved around to like 5 different states: Texas, Arkansas, um, Rhode Island, Utah, Pennsylvania. I even lived in Peru for about a year during that time. And then we ended up in Pennsylvania serendipitously, and this is where I've been growing my roots since then. I really, really like it. I just graduated Grove City College. I studied entrepreneurship there, which was really formative for me. Before that, I went to the South Butler County School District, Knock, intermediate elementary, middle school, as well as high school. And it was really some extracurriculars in my high school time, which were Future Business Leaders of America, and this extracurricular when I was a senior called Entrepreneurship Academy, put on by the Midwest Intermediate Union for only a couple years, but I was able to be in the first cohort where, like Votech, for instance, halfway through each day of my senior year of high school, we would go to BC3, and a teacher was designated to show us entrepreneurship each day, and we made like prototypes. We had access to a 3D printing lab all year, and that really laid my foundation for realizing this is what I want to do, make stuff. It's kind of exhilarating to do things from the ground up, even though it is difficult and lots of problems, the whole roller coaster. So I studied entrepreneurship at Grove City. I had some amazing professors, which had backgrounds in doing their own businesses, whether small online businesses or brick and mortars, also big ones. And yeah, that really laid the groundwork for me. My freshman year, I was selling Cutco knives like a madman, learning to do things then. And even then, I knew I didn't want to do that forever, but I knew that I would learn a lot. And indeed, I did. Learning failure, rejection. And by the time I was done with my freshman year of college, I was the Butler County branch manager for the summer. And I had an office in the Clearview Mall. I was way in over my head, did like over 70 hours of work a week, and I'd never worked like that. And yeah, I didn't have a deep passion for the product, and having to make others go into the system and sell and all that, I didn't go great for me. And in fact, I was kind of indebted to my mom, and had a terrible, terrible summer trying to sell expensive knives in Butler County. And yeah, by the end of the summer, I was indebted to my mother, and luckily I got out of that debt like literally in the last week by selling to all the neighbors I hadn't tapped into yet at my dad's neighborhood. And yeah, I got out of that debt, but by the time sophomore year started, I decided no more. I quit. And about 2 weeks later, I had the idea to start brewing tea.
So, your tea part, though, came from somewhere else, correct? That it wasn't just, hey, I want to make tea. That didn't just pop out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's correct. When I was in Peru, I remember my grandma would always make this tea in the morning, and she made the whole house Smell like cinnamon, cloves, anise, and black tea. And that's what I would wake up to in the morning. And my mom had made it too over here in the US, and it was amazing. She made it iced. And it was Labor Day 2017, 2 weeks after I quit Cutco. I was sitting with my mom having a nice Labor Day lunch. She makes me all my favorite foods. She's got like steak, potato salad, like a salad with like nuts and strawberries. And then there's a picture of my grandma's Peruvian chai tea. I literally drink the whole pitcher in one sitting. I'm like, Mom, this tea's so good you could sell it. She's like, well, you study entrepreneurship. Why don't you? And then the light bulb came off because I had been looking and thinking, what am I going to do? I need something I'm passionate about. A big thing in entrepreneurship is to do like an app or a website or some tech thing. But that wasn't my flavor. My flavor was my way, what I felt best I fit with was like a solid product. And when I was a kid, I wanted to be a chef. In high school, I worked at Pizza Hut, and I loved making the pizza for some reason. For some intrinsic reason, I just got so much satisfaction from making something that I know someone was going to digest. Thought it was a real intimate thing. And I still think that. And I decided, if we're all these brands, they are kind of similar in my opinion. They all, at that time especially, they did black teas in different ways. And I bought a lot of those, growing up. They were great then. But yeah, so the light bulb came off and I decided I'm going to start selling grandma's tea.
So grandma's tea starts you off, and you ran into people enjoyed your tea, but you found out that your name for the company wasn't able to be used, if I read that correct.
Yeah, exactly right. So we ran with the name Te Amo. It means I love you in Spanish. And I really didn't do a great trademark search. But in addition to that, the trademark that a Guatemalan consumer packaged goods company had was Te Amo, and it was international. So that is listed differently on the trademark database in the US, and I didn't see it. But I did see this company whenever I was searching Te Amo, but they kind of looked not legit, and I figured they were a different uh, country trademark and all this. So I had begun and kind of gotten off to the races with using the name Te Amo. I thought it was clever. It means I love you in Spanish. It also means tea love, kind of a play on words. So yeah, like I officially put my um, LLC on in October 2017, was running with the name, sold like over 5,000 bottles, planted a lot of trees up until my summer in between my sophomore and junior year. And I had decided, you know what, I'm not going to take an internship. I'm going to double down. My major is entrepreneurship after all. I do want to graduate into my own business. And halfway through that summer, I got a cease and desist letter from this company, the Guatemalan one, and it was from a Puerto Rican law office. And it says I had to stop or else they'll sue and they can take everything. And I have till the end of the year. They're like, kudos to what you're doing, but you got to choose something different. So it took me like the rest of the year, which is like 6 months, to find a new name. And then it took like another 6 months to find a designer, get the design finished. And then it took like another 3, 4 months once I had my design, to scrap up some money, which my mom gave me a loan graciously. And I ordered my bottles and I got 10,000 new Treecup bottles like 13, 14 months after my cease and desist. So it was a long junior year, kind of depressing at times, but it's okay. I made it out and it's way better now, I think.
So here we go. Now we have Treecup Tea. So for those that are now listening and might not know your product, what is Treecup Tea?
Yeah, for every bottle of organic tea sold, we plant a tree. We're focused on climate impact. There's a lot of beverage brands which are just wasteful. They know they're being wasteful, but plastic is the cheapest way to make it. And they're kind of pursuing the greed for as long as they can. It shows how long it takes the general audience or people in general to realize things are bad and want change because we've been doing this for decades and people are just barely now waking up and being like, oh, look at the pictures of the whales dying on the shore or, all the plastic landfills and all that. But this was something I had to kind of play devil's advocate for. At the beginning, we used plastic bottles, and then we used like a more so decomposing plastic bottles with our first generation of Treecup ones. But now we're doing fully glass, which is reusable, recyclable, and all that.
So the part of Treecup Tea is not only do you have tea in your cup, but you plant a tree, correct?
Yeah, indeed. We plant a tree in Haiti. Haiti is about 80% deforested, most impoverished nation in the Western Hemisphere. And we partner with a 501c3 nonprofit called Haiti Friends. They were actually founded by the Mellon family out of Pittsburgh in the 90s. And it was in conjunction at the beginning with a hospital they made, I think in the 70s in Haiti, Deschapelles, which is a mountaintop sort of village. And yeah, they plant about 300,000 trees a year, no matter what, and we just feed into their funds. It's all donor funds, and their donors are kind of getting older. And now we're trying to replace, their funding source. And I just thought it was really cool, even from the outset, that businesses can do this nowadays.
Yeah, it's a very unique, point of view for a business to get into a venture like this. Very few want to give back in that sense of right from the start of you buy our product right away. We're going to go ahead and reinvest resources somewhere else.
That's indeed true. When I was first starting it, um, what happened was this. I had this bad habit, which I picked up from my knife selling days to compensate, of smoking ganja. That means weed. Now it's medical and all that. And I got kicked out of my college like 2 weeks after I had the idea of doing the tea. And that gave me 4 months open when literally up until that point, the whole year I was trying to cram every second to develop, get ahead, all that. That's why I did the knives. Um, and yeah, so luckily I turned that 4 months open and that suspension into a good, stopped sipping on the ganja and all that. And yeah, so it's been good since then. But when I had that idea during my 4 months open, I was researching and I realized, well, instead of paying for marketing, like 50% or whatever these consumer packaged goods reinvest into making sure they have sales, instead of all that, if we just do something that's so amazing that will generate word of mouth, then that's a way better use of funds than marketing. So I kind of betted against that. And yeah, it's kind of been happening so far, although we're not huge scale, we're still within the greater Pittsburgh area.
No, it's clever. So when you originally pitched this idea, I'm guessing you were like, all right, we have one kind of tea, but you make multiple kinds of teas, correct?
Yes. So we have the base Peruvian chai, cinnamon, cloves, anise, all infused with an organic black tea. Our second one was a berry jasmine. My dad had always brought me to eat sushi, different places, and I always asked for jasmine. And I loved it. I just knew it was a great tea. And I wondered why this tea just wasn't used in bottled teas because it's way better than my, black teas, I think. And then I went to my tea distributor in the Strip District. They're called Presto George. They're a couple storefronts down from Woolies. And I was at that point, you didn't have to have a face mask and stuff. And I was literally like smelling all their mason jars of different teas. And I went to this mix called Bunch of Berries. Had 5 different berries, like blueberry, raspberry, strawberry, goji, and cherry, I think, and rose petals. And I'm like, oh, this will go well with the jasmine. So that's how the second flavor, berry jasmine, was born. That's our best seller in Whole Foods and direct sales. And then the third tea, um, at that store, I just got a lot of different small amounts of herbs blends during my junior year, whenever I was trying to change the name that whole year. And I had been experimenting with different teas in my dorm room instead of coffee, which is typically what I drank in the morning. Not anymore. And then I mixed together green tea, lemon peel, ginseng, and spearmint. And I made this like real strong blend that was like a coffee to me. And it tasted great. So that became our Jin's Yin and Yang. I made that name up. And it's delicious. And then our fourth tea, I went to this tea shop in Shadyside called Dobra Tea House. And they had this amazing black tea with like in a beer glass with like a head on it, like a beer head, foaminess. And it was amazing. It was like some Czech teas called the Staroborshov. And they had like a woody taste to it. And so I was Googling woody teas because I'm like, this is the best black tea I've ever had. And I wanted to copy it. And then I couldn't find the exact recipe for Staroborshov, but it requires hops, actually. I found this other tea, the Lumberjack Black. It has cedar firs, juniper berries, and black tea. And I put that on the lineup. It's just a fantastic, it's got a lot of like antioxidant properties. It's very good for you. All the woody parts are sourced from North America. So those are our 4 teas we have now.
What are some of the lessons that you've learned while running your business, either before or current?
Yeah, I still have an amazing mentor. His name's Noah. He has a lot of big alcohol brands that sell in wine and spirits, and he's based out of the Moon area. He told me everything takes twice as long and costs twice as much as you think it's going to. And that is so true. It's stunning how true it is. And yeah, indeed, it's like you never know what life's gonna throw at you, both in a good way and a bad way. Like I have applied for different grants and funding and stuff that I think I'm gonna get, and then I never get it. And then the ones I don't think I'm gonna get, I do get it. And it's humbling. It's very humbling. One of the ways I ensure I get sales and I get my revenue in is I set up a booth at different farmers markets, because I can know I'm going to sell, a decent amount just through manually pushing. And I think that is the best grassroots marketing approach, truly guerrilla marketing. I think the heart of great marketing, especially these days, is just focusing on the individual. And I learned that in my Cutco days. And now it's no problem for me to ask like everyone that passes by to try the tea. And that's the top of my funnel, getting them to try it. And the next thing's my pitch, which I don't even have to think about saying now, it just comes out. And then I ask them, how many trees would you like to plant today? And then typically, well, the 6-pack, they often get that. So yeah, it's amazing. I'd say just take steps one step at a time. And I think personal sales, there's nothing wrong with that.
Where do you see the future for Treecup?
Yeah. So right now we're getting our new glass bottles in 12 days, the day after our Kickstarter finishes. So after I pay a ton of tariffs, like a couple days after I'm doing my huge production run, and then I'm going to re-enter into the Whole Foods stores and a couple other nice independent shops. I'm launching on Amazon, and eventually I am going to want to be national, and that will require a lot more bottles, a lot more capabilities, resources, which I've always been constrained with. Um, and I want to eventually reforest all of Haiti. That'll take about 120 million trees.
Wow.
But I think we're in an era where it's possible and it's doable and it's amazing. And um, in the process, our new bottles are going to actually have a maple tree seed attached to them. So we're going to be planting 2 trees and really making it a lot more hands-on for the drinker. It's actually going to be a sugar maple tree seed indigenous to this area. So I'm excited to see how that goes. That'll also allow us to raise our price a little bit, which will be good for my projections and growth and all that. And I would like to join the Chobani Incubator next year and raise a big fundraising round of about 200K in order to grow everything.
That's phenomenal. And you just mentioned your Kickstarter, which we'll put the link in the episode so that people can go to it. You have hit one of your targeted goals. What are you able to do with the funds raised from your Kickstarter?
Yeah, so we got some tariffs we still got to pay off, which luckily I think we'll be able to pay it off with what we have so far, but I didn't get the bill yet. And then we are going to hopefully get enough funds to use a distributor. That would really take a lot off me. I was just kind of going around with my Subaru distributing like, and I got to do it like a couple days after they order. That's how it works. So yeah, that kind of was a lot of running around. And if we get enough, I would like to do a mid-sized production run. And that's, I know people in Dormont, Pittsburgh, which have a 100-gallon kettle for producing, all sorts of stuff. They use it for pickles, but I need to brew in larger capacities. Right now, I'm only doing 3-gallon per pot on a 6-burner stove top, so that's 18 gallons at a time. And that's a very small batch, very premium, as you could say, but takes up a lot of time and a lot of hassle. And eventually we'll go past that. I hope to have our own production facility in the Pittsburgh area at some point.
Perfect. Where can people purchase Treecup Tea?
Yeah, the most direct way is online, treecuptea.com. Another great way is on a Kickstarter if you want the new glass bottles, which will be listed online later this month. But those, if you can be one of the first people to get a 4-pack of the new glass bottles with a maple tree seed, you donate $100. And then for $150, you get twice that amount, an 8-pack. And then we're going to relaunch in Whole Foods, hopefully by November. And yeah.
That's awesome. Anything else you'd like to share with us today?
Yeah, if you have a dream, follow it. You might as well. Things aren't easy. Still, my bank account is like thread hanging as I wait for these new bottles and the Kickstarter to go through. But I think that if the product and the people that the customers that you're trying to market to, if it's a fit, then it's bound to succeed. And that's where I'm at. So if you have a dream, go for it.
Well, sir, I wish you the best as I get your passion for this. I understand what you're trying to do and, keep up what you're doing. You have something here and I think you're doing not only a great thing for our community, but also for a community that is desperately in need.
Thank you very much, Seth. Appreciate that.
For Armstrong in the Loop podcast, I'm Seth Prentice, keeping you in the loop. Are you enjoying Armstrong in the Loop podcast? Great news! All past and current episodes are available on popular streaming apps and websites. Search Armstrong in the Loop podcast and subscribe today.